Well, hello, my fellow YouTubers. Please subscribe if you haven't. It's all free. We got a victory here in Minneapolis. Auditors do make a change. And here's a nice briefing on how change is going to take effect. And this is because of auditors. And kudos to all the auditors. And this lady that's about ready to come up to the podium, the Attorney General of Minneapolis. Let's get into it.
Kristen Clark, Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights at the U.S. Department of Justice. I am so pleased to stand here today with Mayor Frey and Minneapolis Police Department Chief O'Hara. Today, the Justice Department and the City of Minneapolis have agreed to a court-enforceable consent decree addressing the United States findings that the City and Police Department engage in a pattern or practice of conduct that violates the Constitution and federal law. The Justice Department's investigation found that the police used excessive force, unlawfully discriminated against Black and Native American people in its enforcement activities, violated the rights of those engaged in protected speech, and together with the city, discriminated against people with behavioral health disabilities when responding to calls for assistance. These are severe problems that require a strong remedy. But today is a new day. The consent decree that we are announcing today is robust and comprehensive in scope. The decree focuses on 4 core goals: promoting constitutional policing, strengthening trust and public confidence in law enforcement, promoting public safety, and ensuring freedom from discrimination and bias. The decree sets forth remedies to address the problems identified in our findings. These remedies include limiting use of force, closely regulating or eliminating some types of force altogether, and adopting a system to thoroughly and fairly investigate uses of force. Ensuring officers intervene to prevent unlawful uses of force and that they seek prompt medical care as needed. Avoiding unnecessary stops by focusing traffic enforcement on improving public safety. Regularly assessing whether the police department's enforcement programs are causing racial disparities and taking action to avoid those disparities. Protecting journalists from retaliation by law enforcement and safeguarding their right of access during demonstrations so that they can report to the fullest extent possible. Protecting the right to engage in demonstration and protest by focusing on de-escalation, limiting use of militarized tactics and restricting use of force, including by barring the use of CN gas, a dangerous type of tear gas. Supporting the city's non-police behavioral health response program with the goal of not using police officers to respond to people with behavioral health needs where there's no need for a law enforcement response, and avoiding the use of handcuffs on children under the age of 14. I want to turn now to our next steps. Today, we are filing a complaint in federal court that outlines the violations of law identified during our investigation. We're also asking the court to issue an order approving the terms of this consent decree. We're also seeking the designation of an independent monitor and have asked the court to appoint effective law enforcement for all, which is evaluating the city's compliance with a settlement with the Minnesota Department of Human Rights to monitor implementation with the federal consent decree. This appointment will promote efficiency in monitoring and help ensure that the city and police department are able to build on the work that they've already been doing to comply with the state settlement. We believe that these reforms can be instituted swiftly. The Justice Department will move to terminate provisions of the decree as full and effective compliance is achieved. We are confident that Minneapolis will comply with the consent decree's requirements, as the city has already been taking a number of important steps along the path to reform. For For example, MPD policy now prohibits neck restraints, and officers cannot use crowd control weapons without approval of the MPD chief. Following the 2022 death of Amir Locke during a no-knock warrant execution, MPD banned their use. And the city has already launched a promising behavioral health response program so that trained mental health professionals will respond to calls for service that do not warrant a police response. Building on all of this momentum, we have every confidence that the Minneapolis Police Department will emerge from this process a more trusted and an even more effective law enforcement agency. I want to be clear, policing is a dangerous and difficult job. We know that most officers serve with honor and with great personal sacrifice. With this decree, we have the opportunity to see that they get the tools and support they need to do their job safely and effectively. For example, the consent decree requires the city to provide confidential mental health wellness services for all officers. The people of Minneapolis have made clear that they deserve constitutional and lawful policing. We urge the public to remain engaged in this process. Public input on policies, comments at hearings, and involvement on advisory groups will be key in the road ahead and essential to ensuring that these reforms are enduring. The consent decree is by no means a ceiling on reform. It's just a starting point. Community members can and should continue to advocate for reforms beyond the scope of this decree and push for change deemed necessary for a safe and equitable Minneapolis. We all remember the tragic events of May 25th, 2020, when Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin murdered George Floyd, while 3 other officers stood by and failed to intervene, to act, or to save him. I took an oath to office as the Assistant Attorney General of the Civil Rights Division just 1 year after George Floyd's death.
Hello, Jerry.
George Floyd's death was not just a tragedy, it was a galvanizing force for the city and for the nation. All eyes remain on Minneapolis. And with this consent decree, we now have a roadmap for reform that will help this community heal while strengthening trust between law enforcement and the people they serve. There can be no question that this decree marks a new day and represents a critical step forward in our work to ensure constitutional policing.
Amen.
A brief word on consent decrees. Consent decrees in the policing context are important vehicles for protecting the civil and constitutional rights of people living in communities where they have identified pattern and practice violations. They help us avoid contested litigation and put communities immediately on the path to reform and transformation. When entered by the court, the Minneapolis consent decree will be the 16th policing pattern or practice consent decree and settlement agreement that the Justice Department is currently enforcing. 30 years of experience makes clear that consent decrees continue to be successful in achieving reform. Cities that have worked collaboratively with the Justice Department have made important, tangible progress toward better, safer, and lawful policing. For example, the Seattle Police Department has reduced the use of force in crisis incidents to less than 2% of such incidents, and the majority of force used, 65%, is now low level. In Portland, the police department has significantly reduced the size of the use of tasers, and when officers do use them, they comply with police and national standards. In Newark, officers now conduct stops in compliance with constitutional standards, and the city developed promising and successful public safety systems that include the community, like a community street team of non-police responders. These efforts have been successful at reducing the burden on law enforcement and reduced crime, which is down 40% since we entered the decree. In Albuquerque, nearly 5% of the call volume to the Albuquerque Police Department is now diverted to the Albuquerque Community Safety, which sends teams of civilian responders to assist people with behavioral health needs. And in New Orleans, the police department went from a high of 22 critical incidents in 2012 to a low of 5 critical incidents in 2023. I want to close by, again, thanking Mayor Fry and Chief O'Hara for their tremendous leadership. I also want to recognize my team, the dedicated career attorneys and professionals in the Civil Rights Division and the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Minnesota, who worked jointly on this important matter. They worked closely with police professionals and experts at every stage of this process. They are and always have been the true backbone of the Justice Department. You'll now hear from Chief O'Hara.
That is taking place throughout the United States by auditors. And I want to put kudos to all them auditors out there, because here we're seeing it publicly announced that we finally got one city that's going to follow the Constitution and make change. And as this lady here, the previous speaker, was saying, we've made change in many cities. Kudos to all you guys out there for making change. One person at a time here and there is making change throughout the country here. All right, if you guys want to see this complete video, it's in the descriptor. I thought this was very, very important. I want to give all those auditors out there, AIs, and everybody out there to give kudos and thank you, because I see change happening, and it is happening. All right, guys, I'm going to shut this down. Tiff, Jerry, Pink Taco, everybody in this chat, thank you for coming in. Jerry Singleton, thank you. You guys got any comments before I let this go? Anyway, thank you guys for showing up. Eventually, I'll be doing live police audits out there. And we'll catch you on the next one, guys. Thank you for dropping in. Leave me some comments what you guys think about this video. Like I say, it's in the descriptor. If you want to see the whole thing, maybe I'll go ahead and play what this this guy's saying here.
Here today. Today marks an important and pivotal moment in the history of the Minneapolis Police Department and for the people that we serve. We are here to reaffirm our commitment to accountability, transparency, and a future where reducing crime and earning community trust go hand in hand.
There you go, guys.
I want to make it clear, this is not the beginning of our efforts to reform. Much of the hard work to improve this department has already been underway as part of our settlement agreement with the state of Minnesota. This agreement builds upon those efforts and sets a framework to guide continuing transformation. I have experience leading a department through a federal consent decree. In Newark, we proved how reform can lead to meaningful change. That happens through strong leadership, community collaboration, and a true commitment, not just to our community, but to the men and women of our police department as well. Since becoming chief 2 years ago, my mission has been clear: reduce serious crime while earning community trust, and rebuild this police department. Since 2020, a department that typically had 900 officers has lost more than 500. The consent decree presents an additional challenge, but it is also an opportunity. We are not going to just comply with its terms, but we will exceed expectations, and we will make change real for people on the street. Saving lives and keeping...
I want to stop that for a minute. 500 police officers have quit, left the department since this decree. How about that? I clap to all you auditors. That means we've got rid of 500 bad apples, the apples that do not want to follow the Constitution. Because that's what this decree is about. It's about the Constitution. 500 officers have quit. Kudos. Glad they did.
Keeping people safe is our core mission. but it's not something that we can achieve alone. It requires collaboration with our partners and with our community. Together, we will make Minneapolis a place where everyone feels safer and they know that Minneapolis cops will have their back. We are committed to engagement with our community through this process and to holding ourselves accountable. That's the point of these consent decrees, to create an organization that is capable of self-correcting. The consent decree will serve to help build on the progress already underway. In accordance with our state settlement agreement, we have been revising our policies to provide clear, consistent guidance to our officers. And we have been investing in additional training so that our officers can have the tools, skills, and knowledge that they need to succeed. This includes seeking community feedback in our policy and training development so that the community can have a voice in this process.
I want to stop that. The community can have a voice. We have been having a voice. It's the auditors out there, the AIs out there that are making the difference, and they are finally listening to us. Kudos.
Dozens of new policies and trainings are in the process of being implemented and will soon be implemented this year. But with today's announcement, Minneapolis becomes unique. We'll be the first police department to enter into an agreement while also having one in a state court. While this is an added challenge, Minneapolis is also the first to have a head start. We've already created an implementation unit to implement these requirements. We've already held dozens of town meetings around our city and with specific communities to get community input. We've implemented compliance checks to take action quickly and provide corrective behavior, and implemented a force investigations team specifically to review use of force. This consent decree supports that work and enhances all of that work that's already underway. Like the state settlement agreement, this agreement is more than just a checklist of tasks and projects to accomplish. It is a commitment to the sworn and professional staff of the Minneapolis Police Department that leadership will support you. Modern policing is demanding, and our officers deserve our support. We are committed to improving staffing, updating equipment and facilities, and expanding wellness programs to ensure every member of the MPD has what they need to meet the challenges of this profession. Too many times, systems have failed the good men and women of this profession. Thank you to everyone in community that has been working with us. I want our residents to know that we will continue to be responsive to their concerns. And in every enforcement action we do, we will be as precise as possible. We will aim to reduce crime while earning your trust. That is the key to effective crime reduction. You cannot reduce crime and maintain those reductions over time unless you are also doing it in a way that earns trust with the community. Our police department will continue to be the department that more and more people in our community and around this country can be proud of. While the independent monitor will help evaluate our progress, the responsibility to make this a success and to achieve not only compliance, but to achieve that change on the street rests with us, the men and women of the Minneapolis Police Department. And I am confident that the resilient and incredibly dedicated professionals that staff it are up to this challenge. To those sworn members and the professional staff of the Minneapolis Police Department, thank you for your dedication to duty. Thank you for your resilience in the face of unprecedented challenges over the last few years. I have learned your passion, your commitment, and together, without question, this police department has turned a corner. Together, we will continue to rebuild the MPD, make our city safer, and become the best police department in America. Thank you.
All right. There you go, guys. I'm going to go ahead and end it on that note. This settlement one, and I'll say bye-bye now.